If you enjoy watching Common Ground online, please consider making a tax-deductible donation at lptv.org. Lakeland Public Television presents Common Ground, brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota. Welcome to Common Ground. I'm your host, Scott Knudsen. In this season finale, learn the past, present, and future of biking in Bemidji.
My name is Natalie Gille. I'm the Northern Minnesota Regional Manager for the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota. I work with communities to provide instruction on cycling, advocate for laws that are bicycle friendly, and provide technical assistance to communities that would like to be recognized nationally as a bicycle friendly community. Well, the community of Bemidji did many wonderful things to receive a bronze award as a bicycle-friendly community through the League of American Bicyclists. I partnered with local groups here, including the Active Living Bemidji group, and in October of 2012, the local community here was successful in receiving a bronze award. This was something that they received in 2012, and now we're talking 2014. There's a lot of things that have been done since then. At the time, the local community had a nonprofit organization called Shifting Gears, which was very active in the community to provide bikes that have been donated to that group and then fixed up and brought to people in the underserved communities here in Bemidji. That was a really strong point. There's also a few league cycling instructors in the community of Bemidji. At the time there were only a couple, and now we have 7 league cycling instructors in Bemidji. So it's definitely growing the culture through bike education and encouragement activities, getting more people on bikes.
Well, my name is Muriel Gilman, and I am involved in bicycling in Bemidji by being involved with a group of instructors called League Cycling Instructors, and we plan educational experiences for people. We also were pretty instrumental in the most recent Bike Bemidji Loop the Lake Festival. The Loop the Lake Festival this year was an inaugural event. There will be a second annual next year, and we had people riding around Lake Bemidji. We had a 17-mile route, and the community was involved in a number of different ways. First and foremost, we wanted them to be participants of this ride, and if they didn't participate, we hoped they would volunteer. And we had people that played music, had a drum circle out at Rutgers Resort, and we also had volunteers who served food and helped people fill their water bottles. We tried to make it a green event, so we didn't have paper cups everywhere. And the other way that the community was involved was they were sponsors, and they helped us financially or with in-kind donations. And we had 357 riders. So the route for the Loop the Lake Festival was around the lake, and we took advantage of parks, trails, local nice ride bicycles, and we had entertainment for people. We had local foods, and we had rest stops where they could look at things like wildlife and birds and nests. There were people who saw snapping turtles laying eggs. There were people who saw beautiful showy lady slippers. It was great.
The Loop the Lake Bike Festival is an opportunity for people to ride around Lake Bemidji, enjoy some food, enjoy some local music, and participate in a fun event that brings families and community members and people from outside of the community as well together on bikes. It has opportunities for people to ride together as a group or as individuals and connect with other bicyclists. They have an opportunity to see the beautiful scenery at Lake Bemidji State Park. You can ride along the Paul Bunyan Trail, which follows the lake. In the past, in Bemidji, riding bike around Lake Bemidji involved riding on sometimes dirt paths and not necessarily a paved trail. Now you have an entirely paved route to take yourself on a bicycle around Lake Bemidji.
Yeah, the infrastructure in Bemidji has changed a lot over the years. Keep in mind, I've lived here for almost 40 years and I am retired now, but when I was riding my bike to work 35 years ago, there weren't paths anywhere. So over the last few years, we've added in chunks, pathways, and then bike lanes on streets. And I think the three big ones that come to my mind are this West Side Trail that goes from Diamond Point down to Paul and Babe. Big change. Then the bike lane on Birchmont Drive was a big addition, and the Paul Bunyan Trail on the east side of the lake. Those three things really started to shift the number of riders and who was riding and where they would ride. And then making the connections between them was really big. For a long time, you could ride a lane down to Paul and Babe, but then you didn't have a way to get across Midway Drive. You could get across Midway Drive, but you couldn't get over to the Paul Bunyan Trail on the east side of the lake. So now the connections are almost all in place. You can actually ride all the way from Bemidji down to Brainerd on a trail. It's fabulous.
There are a lot of partners who are involved in making bicycling and growing the bicycling culture in Bemidji, making it more popular. The community members who are very instrumental in making this happen include Diane Pittman at Shifting Gears, Marsha Larson at the City of Bemidji Parks and Rec, and also the Headwaters Regional Development Commission, Kurt Wayne and others in that organization, really helping to build the active living culture and the bike culture here in Bemidji. Shifting Gears is an awesome local business that provides bikes that have been repaired and that were donated to local community members. Shifting Gears is an organization led by Diane Pittman, who's a medical doctor and also runs Shifting Gears in partnership with some local community members.
I'm Diane Pittman and I am a family physician. I started Shifting Gears about 13 years ago. My husband and I were getting married and he wanted to build a shed. And I said, sure, that sounds great. And he said, well, it's going to be 30 by 50. And I said, that's not a shed, that's a warehouse. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll build you a little bike shop in the corner. I know you've always wanted to learn how to work on bikes, and I'll fix it up for you. And true to his word, he did. So I started getting garage sale bikes and fixing them up and learning my mechanical skills. And then I got hooked up with People's Church and found out that people who are homeless and in transition had a real need for bicycles as transportation. And so I started bringing bicycles over there, and people were delighted. And then we started doing outdoor bicycle clinics on the grounds of the church, and kids would bring their bikes and adults would bring their bikes, and we'd teach them how to change tires and do minor fixes. And then about 2-3 years ago, we started renting at the Rail River Folk School, and now we have a shop that's open once or twice a week for repairs, and we continue to collect donations of bicycles that are either repairable or partable or recyclable, and we get them to all kinds of people. One of the things that I really love about Shifting Gears is the fact that people from all walks of life, all races, all ages, men and women, boys and girls, all congregate at the shop at the same time. We have a BSU professor who comes, and he's our wheelman. That's Mark Fulton, and he can take just about any kind of tacoed wheel and make it run again. So everybody likes bicycles, and many people like to work on bicycles or learn about bicycles, and certainly to have a bicycle and ride a bicycle. So, you know, when people show up at Shifting Gears, they're happy, and we're all focused on something that we all love. And so BSU professor and a homeless person are all in the same space together, communicating about something that we enjoy and that we love, and there's mutual respect and there's mutual joy. And that's what's really exciting about Shifting Gears. So when we're to the point where we're ready to give a bike away, a lot of times we do just give them away. If people can afford to pay us a little bit of money, that's really helpful. A lot of times people volunteer, or they'll work on bikes, or they help us out at the shop in order to pay. We've had people who, recently had somebody who came in and volunteered to work because we got him a bike last year, and at a time when he didn't have any money to be able to pay, and so he's coming back. We call it Pass It Forward. A lot of times people can't afford to promise us any money. What we do is say, okay, you do something really good for the next person that crosses your path, and that way the generosity just keeps going. It's got momentum, just like a bicycle.
This bike here is a Shifting Gears bike. It is a Trek. It didn't look exactly like this when I first got the bike, but now I've added quite a few things. The bell, the light, a couple bags on here, and some fenders. The bike I received from Shifting Gears back in 2011, and this was a trade in exchange for doing volunteer work at local bike events here in Bemidji. I volunteered in the local Bemidji community through the Worldwide Day of Play, local bike rodeo over at the Nymore Arena with the kids, and also some other activities in town here through Active Living Bemidji.
You know, people have lots of bikes that are sitting around in garages and sheds. Their kids have outgrown them, or it was their favorite bike in the 1970s, but their body doesn't quite fit it anymore, and they're ready to move up or maybe, unfortunately, give up biking sometimes. But so what we do is we offer people an opportunity to put those bicycles back to use. And so they drop them off at the shop. We go over them, figure out what kind of repairs they need, or if they're not repairable, we pull all the usable parts off. And we then have lots of people who come to us. Had an email just the other day from a woman who said her bicycle was stolen, she's lost her ride to work, and she needs to ride to work. One of my favorite stories is from last year, when I got a letter written in pencil with a correctional institution stamp on it. And a gentleman had written me this beautiful one-page letter telling me how he had been in prison for 11 years, and he was ready to get out and start a new life, and he was wondering if he could get a bicycle so that he could get to work. And so we fixed him up with a bicycle. And a couple of months later, I got another very beautifully written penciled letter talking about how he rode his bicycle to work every single day, and he was having challenging time readjusting, but the bicycle was an important part of making him successful at his job. So that's what we're all about. So if somebody has a bicycle they want to donate, or if you would like to volunteer, we do have a website, and that's shiftinggearsbemidji.com. The local bike shop, Northern Cycles, will also take your bicycle and hold it for us, and they've been great sponsors and supporters of Shifting Gears.
One of the things that is really awesome about Shifting Gears is that it's getting more people on bikes. People that need to get to their place of employment, maybe they would like to get downtown to go to one of the local restaurants or shops, and also to meet up with friends for social rides. A few events in Bemidji in 2014 have launched that are really helping to grow the bike culture in Bemidji. One is the Bike Bemidji Loop the Lake Bike Festival, and the other is the launch of Nice Ride Bemidji Bike Share.
You know, the Nice Ride program was brought to town by Nice Ride of Minnesota and funded by Blue Cross Blue Shield in part. And their goals are to get people using bicycles for short trips around town. So Melinda Neville is the person who's coordinating the Nice Ride program of Bemidji.
My name is Melinda Neville. I'm the manager for Nice Ride Minnesota here in Bemidji. I became involved with Nice Ride Minnesota in April of this year when they launched their pilot program here in Bemidji to see how a bike share would work in a smaller community like Bemidji.
This is Carol Ann, and my friend Trish. She's a newbie tonight.
Nice Ride Minnesota started as an urban bike share system in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And from their inception about 4 years ago, they have decided to expand into greater Minnesota. in part to see if a bike share program can work in a smaller community. And so their pilot program in Bemidji is a 3-year expansion where they're going to see what kind of logistical support do we need in a smaller community. How can we get more butts on bikes in order to increase the health and well-being of people in Bemidji and to see Bemidji without a windshield? Nice Ride is a bike program. Our goal is to get more people cycling. We do that through providing these orange bikes to the city of Bemidji. Blue Cross Blue Shield is our title sponsor, who's provided almost $250,000 to fund the infrastructure here in Bemidji. Now my role is to help in getting these bikes in the hands of Bemidji residents and help facilitate our local partners. Well, Nice Ride Minnesota started as an urban bike share program, which there are several across the country that you can use for reference. But they wanted to take it a step further. Minnesota has a very large rural population, and they looked for a town like Bemidji that was a bike town. Now you can come to Bemidji, you can leave your car off and have a great weekend without ever having to touch it. You've got access to an amazing trail system. You have access to dining. There's lodging that's not on the freeway. Basically, you can have a great time without ever touching your car here in Bemidji. And so this is where they chose to launch their Greater Minnesota strategy of using a bike share program in a community like this. These bikes are made by Van Moof, and they were specially designed for the program here in Bemidji. They need to be longer use. They need to be able to go for a longer distance than the bikes in the cities. So you can loop the lake on one of these very easily. And if you're out late, they have integrated lights, so the lights are working every time you pedal. You can put all your groceries in the basket. You've got a chain guard, so you don't have to worry about catching your clothes. And most of the cables are on the interior of the frame so that they can be set outside for 9 months a year and still hold up and work wonderfully. They're 3 speeds, so they will get you around the lake, but not perhaps as quick as you might expect on a lighter weight bike. The economic vitality of a bike share program brings in tourism. It lowers traffic, it increases our health outcome potentials, and it's fun. That type of energy in a place like Bemidji just increases our vitality as a community, as well as increases our attraction from other locations where tourists might want to come up for a bike vacation in Bemidji. Well, I didn't know anything about the biking community here in Bemidji when I moved here, but learned quite a lot since. There's different levels of involvement for either recreation or transportation, or if you want to go fast or if you want to take your time. So the community, while being tight-knit, is quite varied as far as skill levels, whether they're riding a high-speed road bike or an old clunker that's been in the garage for 20 years. Anything goes. There doesn't have to be granola, there doesn't have to be Lycra. I bike pretty much every day this summer that it isn't pouring rain. And the more I'm out, the more bikes I see. And I'm hoping that pretty soon we'll have a lot more folks that perhaps haven't ridden in a while try out a Nice Ride. For me, getting back on a bike was I was hesitant. I am not as young as I was, and I'm not as fit as I used to be. And getting back on a bike and, watching these people go really fast was, am I supposed to be able to bike like they do, or can I do it my own way? And we're hoping with the Nice Rides that we can get more people encouraged enough to try bicycling again. To use a Nice Ride bike, you go to our website, bemidji.niceridemn.org, and from there you can pick a location to rent a bike, the dates and times you want it. And at that point, if you're a Bemidji resident, there are some really cool discounts that we're offering. Again, to get a Nice Ride bike, you go to our website, you enter your credit card information, and then you're set to ride. Now, pretty soon we'll be out at Lake Bemidji State Park, and we're looking at expanding perhaps to 1 or 2 other locations in town. Now, you can go to any of these locations and rent a bike, and we have 100 bikes. So if you have a large group coming in, or you think you might want to rent it for a family reunion, talk to us, we can make it happen. Well, Bemidji is already a bike place. And having Nice Ride come into the community is hopefully going to get more people on bikes. And one of the cool things that have happened over and over in other communities is the more bicycles there are on the street, the safer it becomes for everybody.
First of all, cyclists fare best when they act and are respected as traffic, which means, first of all, we follow all of the traffic laws. One of the most important principles when it comes to riding as part of traffic is that we take the lane in the appropriate place. Because if we ride too far over to the right, we sometimes are cut off by people who are turning right. So it's really important to, at intersections particularly, take the lane. One of the statistics about bicycle safety is that half of all bicycle car crashes are the fault of the motorist, and about half of them are the fault of the bicyclist. So we all have plenty to learn and plenty to do to respect each other and share the road. It is important for cyclists to always follow traffic law, and it's important for motorists to recognize that bicycles are traffic and allow them to enter the lane and be respected as traffic.
There are things that you can do if you're riding to be safer, and such as reflective clothing, bright clothing, lights at night, and following traffic rules, or even so much as making sure that you're visible and not tucking in behind cars when you're on a busy street. There are a number of different things that good riding skills will help to prevent.
I love cycling in the Bemidji area. We have some of the friendliest, kindest motorists around. But sometimes Minnesota Nice is not safe. When I am stopped at a four-way stop sign, if a motorist waves me across and not in my turn, I'm slowing down traffic. Or worse yet, if I'm trying to make a turn or cross a four-lane, if a motorist stops and waves me on, there may be somebody coming in another lane that could kill me. And so it is really, really best if we as cyclists, and we need to do this, we need to take responsibility to ride like traffic, and then we should be treated like traffic. And we will all be safe, traffic will move smoothly, and cyclists won't slow you down. If I'm riding my bike, you have a parking place. Riding bicycles makes things easier for people who choose to travel by car. I have a bumper sticker for my car that says, if I was riding my bike today, you'd have this parking space.
There's strength in numbers. People get used to looking for bicycles. We have less traffic congestion. There's less fighting for parking spaces. You can park 14 bikes in a standard parking spot for one car. It's less fossil fuel emissions. It's better for our health. Active transportation is a very easy way to work towards, a general exercise plan. I think one of our goals is to increase the safety of bicycling with traffic. And one of my jobs is to lead social rides for different organizations within the community in order to increase the familiarity of biking on the street, of using bicycle for utilitarian purposes. You don't have to have this grand goal of looping the lake in order to enjoy being on a bicycle. And I have found out myself that biking to and from the store for those 2 items I forgot is about 6 minutes shorter than driving. So consider a bicycle as a tool, not just a joyride.
Bemidji is a hub for bicycling, and there are a number of different ways that we could talk about it as a hub. One is, I see people now in the summer coming through here on Highway 2, and they're doing cross-country riding. And I noticed when I was riding trails down in Walker, there were big yellow signs at every intersection of the trails that said Akeley and an arrow, Walker and an arrow. And I think we can use some more of that because we're a hub. They're on Highway 2. They're going to come through here. We also are on the Mississippi River Trail, which is a combination of trails and roads that goes all the way from Itasca Park to the Gulf of Mexico. And it utilizes public streets, it utilizes trails. But we're the first city on the Mississippi, and so we're the first city that people come to when they start this Mississippi River Trail.
If you start at Lake Itasca, you can ride your bike 33 miles to Bemidji along the Mississippi River Trail. If you would like, you can continue to ride your bike all the way to the Gulf of Mexico.
Our society is built around the automobile, and we have thought of infrastructure to accommodate our automobiles. Bicycles have a much lower impact, not just on the fact that you don't have to put gasoline in them, but you don't have to insure them. You don't have to have a large place to park them, and you don't have to clean up after them. The fact is that we don't pay for our gasoline up front. We're paying subsidized prices for gasoline because our tax money deals with the cleanup and the infrastructure. Bicycles are the future. The revolution will not be motorized.
Thanks so much for watching. Join us again next season on Common Ground. If you have an idea for a Common Ground piece that pertains to North Central Minnesota, email us at legacy@lptv.org or call us at 218-333-3014. To view any episode of Common Ground online, visit us at lptv.org. To order episodes or segments of Common Ground, call 218-333-3020. Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people November 4th, 2008. If you enjoyed this episode of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org.